All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. Let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, you did.
Okay, we had a closed session earlier, and we have nothing to report out from that closed session. First up, roll call.
Director Diamond. Here. Director Hetherington.
Here.
Director Odette.
Oh. She's not on yet? Okay.
Director Rolfe.
Here.
Director Stevens. Here.
You want to text Teresa and remind her to, she's on the road. Oh. Yeah. Okay, special orders of business. We have a report from the Truckee Police Department that I'm going to read aloud, dated October 6, 2022. To whom it may concern, the Truckee Police Department recently made an arrest in a case regarding the theft of local campaign signs within the town. Unfortunately, we have been made aware that rumors have been spread regarding the arrest's person's identity and a possible connection to another local campaign. I want to reassure you that the individual we are charging with the theft is not associated with or involved in a campaign, nor have they expressed support towards any electoral candidate. If you have any further questions or concerns regarding this matter, please contact me directly via email at drenfro@townoftruckee.com. Signed, Danny Renfro, Chief of Police. Thank you. Okay. Is there any modification of the agenda? Does anybody have any modifications? Okay. All right, I'm going to read the speak your piece norms before we get started. Number 1, pay attention. Be aware and attend to the world and the people around you. Listen, focus on others in order to better understand their points of view. Be inclusive. Welcome all groups of citizens working for the greater good of the community. Don't gossip and don't accept when others choose to do so. Show respect. Honor other people and their opinions, especially in the midst of a disagreement. Be agreeable. Look for opportunities to agree. Don't contradict just to do so. Apologize. Be sincere and repair damaged relationships. Give constructive criticism. Stick to the issues and don't make a personal attack. Take responsibility. Don't shift responsibility and blame onto others. Share disagreements publicly. All right. Okay, now is the time for public comment on anything that's not on the agenda for tonight. Do we have anybody making public comment?
Thank you, Madam President. There has been a lot of verbiage and long-windedness lately about how the airport supposedly subsidizes lots of stuff on the airport for the purpose of making rich pilots happy with their own private playground and for giving other tenants cut-rate rents and services. A long time ago, when all of the directors loved the airport, we didn't even think of having the district subsidize directors' health insurance. That's an actual subsidizing when compared to most of the venom spat about the aforementioned, quote, subsidizing, unquote, that the airport does. Question, is it legal for the district to pay directors' health insurance? The answer is absolutely yes. Is it necessary for the district to pay an average $2,000 per director per month when all of the directors are in the age range of maximum income earning? The answer is no. My suggestion is this: any director receiving reimbursement of their health insurance should give up their annual subsidy of about $24,000, totaling about $72,000, and the district should put that toward repairing the south half of the hotel hangar row roof that has been ignored for 5 years. I applaud the two directors who have chosen not to have the district pay their health insurance premium. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Does anybody else have public comment? Oh, John. Okay.
Good afternoon or evening, whichever it is. John Jones, I'm a Placer County resident. I would like to share some thoughts. I and many other residents are disgusted with the integrity of some of your airport board members. Disgusted. David Diamond, in his support for Mary and Chris Henderson, is claiming on public media that the airport is using tax dollars to subsidize hangar tenants, that the rich people who fly planes are being subsidized by the airport. This is totally inappropriate for a board member or for a prospective board member like Chris Henderson. This is a breach of fiduciary responsibilities. In the private sector, David would have been removed from his position, and I wish there was a way that your policies could do that. Let me share some facts about taxpayer dollars. In 2015-16 year, the average parcel tax in the district, that's the average that every parcel paid, was $88.74 to the airport, 27 cents per assessed $1,000 in valuation. If I owned a home today, it would be about $118 per average, 33% increase since 2015-16. As it turns out, there are some rich neighborhoods in this district. There's roughly 790 homes in the Lahontan and Martis Camp communities. And based on the average cost of those homes, they contribute over $1 million. They have contributed an increase of over $1 million in property taxes to the airport since 2000, when they broke ground for Lahontan. So 7.2 million is what this airport is getting. 14% of that is coming from those two communities. And the reason you're at 7.2 instead of 4 or 5 million is because of expanse of money from Olympic Valley, from other communities. You gonna time me? If you can't do something about David, I don't know, maybe we can get a recall. But if you guys,
That 3 minutes is up.
if you guys have any fiduciary responsibility, you'll shut him up.
Okay. Is there any other public comments? Anybody on the Zoom call? Okay. Oh,
Sorry, I would make a public comment if I
oh,
can.
sure, go ahead.
from Zoom. Sorry. Hi, everyone. Jordan Covert, Truckee resident. Not as familiar with
Okay. Consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
Yeah, I'd like to move to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 5. No.
I'll second.
Is there any public comment on the consent agenda? Okay, roll call?
Director Diamond,
Yes.
Director Hetherington,
Yes.
Director Odette,
Yes.
Director Rolfe,
Yes,
Director Stevens.
Yes.
great. Moving on to action items, we have first up, Boys and Girls Club of North Lake Tahoe. Do we have Mindy on the call?
Yes, well, this is Stephanie
great.
Arroyo from the Boys and Girls Club. Mindy is getting on right now, so she should be.
Kat, they also have their board meeting at the same time.
Yeah,
too, so
right.
She's switching.
She's
from-
going back and forth,
Well,
I get that.
Do you want to skip to the next item and then come back when she's available?
Yeah, Stephanie, does that work for you? If we do the next item, or, I know
Yeah, that should-
you're juggling with another board meeting.
I know. Yeah, I apologize. We're kind of going
It's
back
okay.
and forth between two meetings. She should be getting on.
What do you guys think? The next item could take some time.
Yes, it could. But Mindy's not here, and she should be here
Right.
for her item, for that item.
Okay, maybe we'll just, we'll go on to the next item and we'll circle back to you. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Okay.
No problem. Thanks.
Okay, great. All right, so let's move to agency partnership funding determinations. And we have Phyllis. Thank you.
Good evening, board members, staff, and community members. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm Phyllis McComb with the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation, and I'm also proud to have my co-worker Sashay Cantu with us this evening. And so we are going to present to you the second cycle of agency partnership recommendations that we have facilitated on your behalf. We will start, go ahead and advance the slide. Just a little wayfinding for the group here. Oh, sorry. Got it? Is it? Is that better? Is that better? Okay, sorry about that. Gotcha, okay. Well, we'd quickly like to go through the agenda that we have for you this evening. I will start, Sashay will start with a brief program cycle overview and the goals of our committee. I'll pick it up from there and give you some data on the review process itself, and then we'll move into the ranked applications, okay?
All right, great. Thank you, Phyllis, and thank you, board and community, for turning out tonight. We'll go ahead and advance into the program cycle overview. And as Phyllis noted, this is actually the second year that we've administered the application cycle on behalf of the airport district, and really have broken out the planning processes end to end into a couple of distinct phases, and recognizing that these phases are intended to be replicated year over year. So with that, we also think that by taking time in each one of these phases, as we begin the work, it gives us an opportunity to build structure, build in time for reflection and learning, and continuous program improvement. And as we implement this cycle, we've also been able to build benchmark data. I think that's been one of the really interesting aspects of coming into this program year two. And we tried to call out just what we felt were valuable from a storytelling and impact perspective of what we're seeing in the community, recognizing there's an opportunity to increase awareness around the funding cycle, whether that's through traditional or non-traditional media, being able to keep a benchmark set of metrics on how many new applicants we're able to invite into the program each year, how much money we're seeing requested year over year, and really just being able to build that knowledge base as we reiterate on the cycle from year to year. So you'll see that we actually are in this last portion of the annual cycle. We've gone through planning and implementation, which really required a lot of partnership between the Community Foundation and Airport District staff to outline a plan for success and deliverables, launched the application in the spring, closed that, went through the review process with our volunteer committee, and now here we are with you all tonight to go through the vote and award, taking us through year end. So we'll go ahead to the next slide, please. And what this really is meant to do is to provide you with some insight into the goals and objectives of the review committee structure. So we were really fortunate enough to engage the time, talents, and expertise of a cohort of community volunteers that are versed in public contributions processes. And really end to end, we really wanted to center this process into outcomes that were defined in partnership with the airport around transparency and equity and being stewards of public funds. We onboarded and trained our committee, really leveraging standards to think about how we take a set of uncommon minds and bring together and interpret a policy instruction when it comes to the review process. So just want to also note that the rubric was included in the board packet as well for reference, and really recognizing that the committee structure allows for balance and perspective, but also ultimately coming together with a shared agreement on what we think the collective scoring and opportunity of this year's applicants are. So I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Phyllis.
Okay. Go ahead to the next slide, please. So here's just a little bit of information to frame this up for us. We had 11 applications this year. Last year there were 12. Total amount requested is about half of what we had last year, $650,000 as opposed to $1.3 million last year. Number of first-time applicants is 2. Last year was 3. Number of public agency applicants, or the reverse, it was 3. Last year it was 2. Number of nonprofit applicants, 8, compared to 11 last year. And last year we had formal resolutions from 5. And we all remember that that was a little bit of a hiccup because the program had been dormant for a while, and it was just getting the cycle up and going again and being able to get on board agendas and all of that. We only had 5 out of 12 formal resolutions last year, but had other contracts or MOUs in place that we accepted last year. However, this year with our workshop with would-be applicants, we stressed how important it was to have the formal resolution, the revised policy instruction that you all agreed upon, dated March 23rd of 22, specifically, still requires that. And so we got 11 out of 11 this year. So we're glad for that progress. The range of applicant operating budgets, we had 4 at under $500,000. You can see this pretty wide spectrum, 3 in the middle there and 4 in the 8 to 18 million category. So with that, we'll move into our ranked applications, if you don't mind. So I think you have a copy of this in your packets if this is a little small to read. This is obviously the aggregate scoring of our committee, ranked then with the highest average scores. We have total possible points of 50, and you can see it spread over those 3 categories. And again, to Sachet's point, we take that policy instruction and the aims of this program that you have enumerated in there. I believe there are 6 of those. So we mirror that in our rubric and our evaluation reporting, and have the committee members compare each application with that rubric, which is specifically to meet those aims of this program. So this body, this committee, takes this very seriously. They try and be as objective as possible, even though we have several members scoring different ways. You know, we took that average, we looked at any outliers, we made sure that everyone was in agreement then on the final compilation of these scores. And then have that for you. We all agreed on this, made these funding recommendations, and we appreciate this year that we had an actual funding amount that we knew was available. So that is an improvement over last year as well. So the request there, as you can see, are the committee's recommendations for the funding. The lower right-hand corner, you can see that the fire district actually received funding for the specific request that they had made of this body, and they got FEMA funding for their request. And so that all happened after our committee had already met. We didn't think, we are not a precedent-setting body, so we could not make an exception for them to, you know, revise their application after the fact. So we took that recommendation off. So you can see there the total funding is a little over $400,000, and I'm happy to try and answer any questions you might have or add any clarity to this if there are questions.
Well, once again, may I?
Yes, you may.
Why, thank you. I want to thank you and your team for the work you've done, and I think it was a little easier the second time around. And I totally appreciate it. I also appreciate all the people in the room. And I am changing my position that I don't want to just approve what you recommended, but I'm really feeling strongly that we ought to say you did the work, we paid you for the work, you're the vetters in chief, and you know, I'm ready to make a motion to approve it as is and move on.
Let's listen to everybody else first.
Okay.
Mary?
Well, I got to agree with Rick on this because they have across the district people involved in reviewing this. They are the vetters. Last year was a circus. I don't want to do that. I want this a 3-minute, and I want to thank you, Kat, for sitting on the committee as well. Because you had 11 people that cross district, and this is what you did. You spent a lot of hours, a lot of time. And I think I'm with Rick on this.
Yeah, and just for transparency, Kat sat on the board not as a voting ranking member, but just to be our liaison with the board if needed. And Mark Lamb from staff also sat on the board and was a scoring member. And we appreciate both of their expertise and input for that.
Thank you. I will second that Mark was a very valuable member of the team. Yep. Go ahead.
My turn. Actually, I'm going to start by, because I've been doing some research into the history of the airport over some time, and I'm going to start by thanking Mary Hetherington, which I think we need to put into perspective. This Give Back program started with Mary and 2 of her colleagues on a board a long time ago. So I think it's worth noting that because I think this is an important part of the district. That said, I do agree. I would like to just accept it as proposed, so I have no specific questions for you.
Teresa, do you have any questions?
Is everything funded? All 650?
I couldn't hear.
It's hard to understand you. You're breaking up.
Sorry, can you hear me better now?
Yeah, it's a little bit better.
I said we accept it as presented, so all 650 get funded.
I didn't understand.
We couldn't hear your last words.
I said, if we accept this, does all 650,000 get accepted, get funded?
No.
No.
It's 416,397.
397.
Thank you. I can't read it that close.
This is an IT.
And what did we budget for this?
500.
And so why are we not giving it all away?
This is the committee's recommendation based on the ranking that we came up with. This is the average scores, and based on that, you can see most are fully funded. The exceptions, I believe, are
Humane Society.
Humane Society. Let me start with Gateway.
Okay.
The request there was asking for administrative support. They are in dire need of that. They really, really are. They have increased their capacity amazingly, but this request was for administrative support. And because your policy instruction says that you do not fund general operations, that it must be a program or project request, our committee felt strongly that they were not in a position to use discretion and make an exception at their level to accept that. So what we did was look at but we didn't want to dismiss it all. So we looked at the project budget and pulled out what we could that was not administrative support, that was funding something new, and it was actually a consultant and some software that we could say was not general operations. And so that is that odd amount there, the 27,000. We felt like that's all we could do.
You followed the policy instruction.
We followed the policy instruction, hard though it may have been for that. So because of that one, not making an exception for general operations, the committee was then, in looking at Humane Society, they asked for two things. They asked for emergency preparedness, 50,000, and 50,000 for general operations to help support their operating budget. Again, we felt like, maybe an unfortunate, position for them to have taken with their request, but we couldn't deal with them differently than we had with Gateway. And so we were only recommending funding for the 50,000 emergency preparedness work. What else? The rec center, this was a really hard one. We really want the pickleball courts, really do. Committee really struggled with this, but they didn't feel like the airport district, there was not a case made for the airport district to be a higher contributing partner than the Rec and Park Department. So the final recommendation was to match the cash that the Rec and Park was putting into this. So since then, I know the downside of that is you're pushing the fundraising to a volunteer group. But again, just based on the fact that you asked for significant contribution by whoever the agency partner is, and a case was not made for the fact that you should be paying more than this specific agency. The committee just did not feel that they could fully fund that one. Again, another hard selection. No one's against the pickleballs.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I address that at all?
We'll have public comment in just a moment. Yeah. Do we want to bring Josh into this conversation or wait for that?
Probably at your discretion. Right.
What's your thought?
Oh, my thoughts. Well, I was very impressed with the committee. I thought it was pretty amazing how closely everybody kept to the rubric and scored accordingly, and just did their due diligence and didn't bring outside opinions in and really did their work that they were asked to do. So thank you so much for that. I know that it was a lot of work getting to that point. And it's, when you have numbers to look at, it's kind of hard to argue with how those numbers fall out. So we really appreciate that, and we appreciate the expertise. And I know everybody who applied is a friend of TTCF, and I know some of those calls can be hard to Peter and say, hey, maybe we can't fund everything, but we really appreciate, Phyllis, all the work that you do, and Sashay for helping out with that. So I think we have had some opinions from our attorney as far as how aligned, we have to have a very clear line between our mission and our goals and the funding that we give to each of these agencies and nonprofits. And so we do have some opinions from our attorney as far as the legality of funding each one of these. So maybe Josh.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So I think, our an excerpt of the memo that we had provided on this is included in the staff report, and I think, just kind of sets the stage for, the important legal consideration here. So there is a California Constitution which prohibits any local agency from providing what's called gift of public funds. The legal determination for that is whether the expenditure serves a public purpose. And that public purpose is measured based on each agency that's provided. And so, an entity like the town or one of the counties have a very broad public purpose, and really anything that's for the betterment of the community likely meets that standard. For special districts, including the airport districts, the standard is stricter and needs to be focused based on the service or purpose of the entity involved. And so in our case, it's sort of operation of the airport. So I think the important consideration when making these determinations is tying each of these expenditures to a public purpose of the airport. And President Roll, I'm happy to answer any questions or go into individual requests if you'd like them to.
Should we have public comment first?
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Always comfortable with that. Yeah.
Okay, so keeping that in mind, everybody who's here to speak for their group, I think there was sort of this general feeling when we worked on the policy 311 that the group applying would come up with their tie-in to the airport. And so our committee, they were not given that charge. They were given the charge of, let's look at the viability, let's score it the way we're supposed to, that sort of thing. So it would be great if the people who come up and speak, we're hoping to have just one representative from each organization so we don't take too much time. Rob's got his timer, so it'll gently beep at you if you go to 3 minutes. But maybe if you can speak a little bit to how our mission is furthered by funding you, and so that makes it easier for us all to make these decisions. Does that make sense? Okay, so public comment. Who wants to start? Oh, okay, Tom.
Thank you, Madam President. This is from the memo from the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation, quote, collectively, the group agreed these changes would ensure thoughtful stewardship of public resources with the intent of achieving greater operational blah, 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 blah. Okay. In other words, you're going to be thoughtful stewards of the property tax money that is allocated to the district for the purpose of operation and maintenance of the district by giving away $416,397. The Airport District Act, Section 22017, quote, District Acts, tax, District Act tax, unquote, means the tax levied pursuant to Chapter 6 for the payment of expenses of and claims against the district other than the bonded indebtedness. Giving away $416,397 is not an expense or claim against the district. Section 22554 additional powers, a district may also, and this is quote, a subsection C, cause to be levied and collected taxes for the purpose of maintaining and carrying on the operations of the district and paying its obligations. Giving away $416,397 is none of 1, maintaining, and 2, carrying on the operations of the district, or 3, paying its obligations. I recommend that the district rewrite and discard the agency partnership section 3 of the policy instruction 311 and provide all community sponsorships as written in section 2 of the policy. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? No.
Hey, I'm with the pickleball group, and I'm so glad to hear that you love pickleball. I guess the
What's your name?
Oh, Susan Safapour. I'm sorry. I think that the point is such a good one, and it really wasn't something we had considered until just a few minutes ago. But our plan, and in conversation with the district board, is that they would finish off the program. So we would be going back to them for that sort of final amount. The other thing is we were a very late addition to this process. We didn't start the project until the middle of June, and they gave us the land, so there is that value that they're giving. And then they didn't give us the money until July because they kind of needed to see we were going to get up and running. And so once we got the website and bank accounts, post office logos, and we were full speed ahead, they gave us half of their budget, and the other half had already been committed to something. So that's where we came in maybe what appears to be short on the Tahoe Donner Recreation and Park District. And I'm really sorry that Steve Randall can't be here tonight. He's at the ribbon cutting for the downtown park. He wanted to be here. Angelo's here, because I know he would address this more clearly and more eloquently. So my only other thought is we had also thought we would be a several-year project, but now they are going to do the work. Their plan is to do the work in-house. It's basically paving. Rupert Construction has given all the excavation and grading. We have an architect. We're going to have drawings by December, and we're launching a paving campaign. We're hoping to break ground this spring, and while we may not have the full amount, $600,000, to build all the courts, we at least think we could get a good chunk of them. So my only other thought, knowing that there's this issue that we didn't address, would be if you could maybe table our item until next month when Steve could be here to address it and perhaps explain that funding issue. But I know that that's asking a lot, and you're here to vote on this tonight, and we really appreciate it. It means the world to us to get money from the airport, and everybody's here, and they're really excited about building these courts. Thank you so much. If you had any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have Peter.
Hi.
And Dana.
Hi.
Share the 3 minutes.
We're going to share the 3 minutes. I talk really fast.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Dana Adams. I'm a school psychologist for Tahoe Truckee Unified, and I've been working as a school psychologist since 1999. I've worked at most schools in TTUSD, and one of my greatest joys and challenges is working with our high-need youth at all age levels. It truly takes an entire community to effectively serve our youth, and I'm grateful for the collaboration of agencies such as Gateway, Mountain Center, Aim High, Sierra Community House, Achieve Tahoe, etc. Gateway Mountain Center and School Psychs have been working for years to support amazing and some of the most behaviorally challenged high-need youth in our community. And I just wanted to thank you. I know that your mission statement is to invest in the safety of our community, and I just want to thank you for supporting our high-need youth, so, through these agencies.
Thank you. Peter Mayfield, founder and executive director. And this was a little challenging for us to name it properly and frame it properly, but essentially we've been very successful in the last year in accessing a lot of outside funding to support our high need youth, like $300,000 last year, partly from the cannabis tax funds and from the state opioid response. And what has happened is the reporting and tracking needs of those very complex government funding streams has crushed our office. So, you know, we don't consider this general operating support. We consider this like a huge infusion to build structures, to buy software, to pay consultants, and half the staff time of a new administrative person so that we can properly administer all this new government grant funding. So I think our title was maybe kind of a mistake. You know, it is time in the Office of Administration, but it's new time above and beyond what we budgeted. So just to clarify that, but thank you so much. We appreciate any support, and the airport has been a great friend to Gateway over the years. So thank you.
Great. Thank you.
2 minutes and 5 seconds.
Yes. Okay. Oh, April. Hi.
Hi, everyone. I'm April Cole. I'm the campaign director for Library Up and the Friends of the Truckee Library. First, I just want to say thank you for your support last year and for just this opportunity right here. I will be very succinct and to the point and speak directly to how our requested grant will support the airport's mission. And really that is, I have it written down because I really want to be right on point with this because I think it's important. Specifically, supporting this grant allows you to move forward Friends of the Truckee Library's effort to facilitate a new community library for district constituents, which when construction has the ability to advance opportunities for children, adults to pursue STEM interests, and also workforce development in aviation. You know, both of these areas are a very strong interest and obviously are in line with what your mission is. Our goal is to seek to work collaboratively with the county, the town, and TTAD to provide suitable information on aviation-related fields and career opportunities. So very specific, to the point. Thank you guys for the opportunity to speak. Have a good one.
Okay. Is that everybody? Is there anybody on the Zoom call who would like to speak?
I would like to speak. Possible. This is Melissa Muller from Sierra Watershed Education and Partnerships.
Hi, Missy.
Hi. I just want to thank you. Thank you so much. I want to say that SWEP promotes stewardship and connects students to the environment, but also works in sustaining our future. And this emission reduction partnership, the first phase and the second phase, I want to thank you all for your support and your partnership. And we're very grateful, and I want you to know that this is reaching all of the students in the Tahoe Truckee region, which is really unique. Sometimes we only can get funding for one part, the Truckee side, and this is also helping the North Shore. And this will trickle also into the homes and provide sustained safety for all of us with reduced emissions. So thank you so very much.
Thanks, Missy. Is there anybody else? Do you see anybody, Lauren, who's waving their hand? Okay. All right. Rick.
I'd like to make a motion. May I?
You can make a motion.
I move to approve all of the TTCF's recommendations in the amount, a total of $416,397 for agency partnerships. Agency partnership is deemed to be of the community and TTAD's benefit and available to all of the Truckee Tahoe Airport District constituents.
I'll second it.
Director Diamond.
Okay.
Yes.
Director Hetherington.
Yes.
Director Odette.
Yes.
Director Rolfe.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Could I read something?
You want to read something?
It's not relevant to our vote, but I think it's a perspective that's important in this. Part 2, Airport Districts of the California Special District Act, the opening purpose of the part reads, "The purpose of this part is to facilitate the formation of intercity and county airport districts having responsibility for the development of airports, spaceports, and air navigation facilities. The objective being to encourage airport and spaceport development by communities and to distribute the cost uniformly among all who benefit." Given that less than 10% of the people in this district ever use the airport for anything, if we challenge the Give Back program and what we do for the community, we have to ask ourselves how we compensate for that and distribute the costs that we know we have thanks to the allocation study amongst those who are benefiting.
May I make a comment in response to his statement?
I don't think so. I think that we have rules against that. But thank you.
We do produce over $70 million of benefit to the community every year.
President Roll,
Okay, yeah.
You know, as you noted, we have already had a public comment period.
Yeah, we've had public
Okay.
comment. Oh. Okay. So Josh, do you have any closing thoughts on the partnerships? I'd just like to clarify that the board has voted unanimously, but it's also pending the legal opinion of how appropriate, or how we can justify legally giving the money out. So.
Yeah, so thanks. So I think, as noted, it's very important that this program be justified by some reference to the airport's purpose. I think one important consideration is that the courts do give substantial deference to the board in making those determinations. I think, in future cycles, the board may wish to, provide more detailed, connection to airport purposes through the process, and I'd be happy to work with the foundation on that piece if the board directed.
Thank you, Josh. Okay. Again, thank you to Phyllis and Sachet and everybody on the committee. And we've said this before, and I'll say it again. It's a work in progress, and we learn something every time. So we'll probably be going back to the drawing board for little tweaks here and there. But this was so much more smooth than the last time. So I think we've made some really good strides. Appreciate everything you do. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Mindy, are you ready?
Hi there. I am ready. I apologize for not being on time. We have our own board meeting at this time, so I was trying to rush between. So sorry for that. But yes, I am ready and so happy to be here.
Great. So why don't you go ahead?
Awesome. Okay. Can you see that on screen?
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Mindy Carbajal. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Boys and Girls Club of North Lake Tahoe. And I'm here tonight. Middle School and Truckee Elementary School. Majority of our kids that we serve come from this region, though we do have a program, a small program over at Incline. Right now, last year we saw our school year attendance at about 350 kids every day. But moving into this year, we're already hitting about 420 kids a day, across our region. We offer programs in before school, after school, during school breaks, snow days, summer camps, many of which we are implementing STEAM programs supported by and in partnership with the airport district. We keep our fees low, so any child is able to be involved and to attend. We have an annual membership of $100 a year, $50 a month, but we scholarship over $65,000 worth of membership and program fees, so that any child has access to our programs. In this past year, our STEM programming really started getting back online. And we had, in previous years, in the past 2 years, were extremely limited to what we could provide or the scope. But in this past year, with the support and in partnership with Truckee Tahoe Airport, one of the components of our partnership is the support of 2 full-time staff that work throughout our sites in the district to provide STEM programming every day to our kids. And how we work that is that when we're talking about 420 kids coming through our program every day, those kids by grade level have access to and participate in STEM programming each day at the appropriate level at all 3 of our sites, at the appropriate age group and so on. We also were able to bring back summer camps, and this summer we brought back 8 STEM camps, including aviation, robotics, women in STEM, where we had guest speakers come in, and we had on average 15 kids participating in each of those 8 camps. Again, one of the intent of this partnership is that the Boys and Girls Club provides support for the Tahoe Truckee Airport District in the community as well on your behalf. And so, though it didn't happen this year, we look forward to in the coming years to be able to provide the classroom time needed for the Challenger field trip as that comes back online, and community events identified by the Truckee Tahoe Airport District, as things like Santa Fly-In Day and those events, come back online or maybe shift into new opportunities for the community. So, as I mentioned, what we're, in this past year, it's really been about engaging kids every single day in STEM programming, in aviation, and giving them that opportunity. And moving forward, we are hoping that, hope you will consider extending our partnership to a 3-year contract, as we've had in previous years, for us to continue this work that we're doing, as well as expand upon what we are doing on behalf of the airport district. As I mentioned, part of this contract is that our staff is working on your behalf to make sure that kids are prepped for the Challenger field trips, that we're supporting Santa Fly-In Days, or whatever those community events look like at the airport district. And I know that things have shifted throughout the, as we've all come out of COVID, but we fully expected and are starting to bring back those community events in our program, as well as, we anticipate that will be happening with your needs as well. And so, tonight I am, hoping that you will consider continuing this partnership with the Boys and Girls Club and the Truckee Tahoe Airport District has established for the past 7 years, and consider a 3-year continuation of that partnership.
Thank you, Mindy. Does any board member have a question for Mindy? David? No?
I'm good.
Okay. No questions? Teresa?
No questions for Mindy.
All right, then. Public comment. Anybody in the audience or on the Zoom call? I don't see any hands raised. Okay. Somebody want to make a motion?
I can make a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Last year, when we voted on this, I voted to extend it because I was concerned that in our policy 311 that we were not all encompassing. This was outside of 311, and we had other policies that were also outside of that. I personally feel, from what I hear from people, I don't have kids, that this is a fantastic organization and that there's no way that we want to turn our backs on them. But I do hope that in 2023 that we can take a look at our policies there and bring this all under one umbrella, so that it's a little bit more clear about what the district is doing with regard to where we are spending money and how the process goes and who goes through the community foundation and who does not go through the community foundation. So I just wanted to get that on the record.
Well, I'd like to say on the record that I disagree with you. You voted against it last year, and because you thought it should go through the Community Foundation. I think this STEM program, we invited them in 7 years ago to fulfill our needs for STEM, and so I consider this a separate deal from community sponsorships and outside of 311. That's my opinion. And I would like to move to approve the Boys and Girls Club of North Lake Tahoe's contract for services agreement in the amount of $88,000 per year over a 3-year period from August 1st, 2022 through July 25th, 2025, plus annual CPI increases in support of two full-time year-round STEM and aviation coordinators.
I'll second that.
You beat me. I had it even on green, ready to go.
Director Diamond.
Yes.
Director Hetherington.
Yes.
Director Odette.
Yes.
Director Rolfe.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Mindy, thank you so much for all the work you do.
Thank you. We so appreciate this partnership and look forward to our continued work.
Awesome, thank you. Okay. What's next? Oh, air show. Yeah, should we take a 5-minute break?
I would like
Let's
that.
do that.
I guess, yeah. Yeah, I mean, she called me, she's like, oh, this is general operating support. It's like, they got tangled up in the committee, but thank you, yeah. No, she said the title should have been there. Yeah. I didn't see it till I found it on the posted thing a couple days ago, but thank you. Yeah.
Love throw his things away so he can come present the air show to us.
And I'll just interject to lead it off if I can. And,
Okay.
And turn
Great.
it back over to the board. Thank you very much. This topic is on the 2023 Truckee Tahoe Airport District Air Show and Family STEM Festival with a proposed budget of $250,000. Last month, Mr. Love was kind enough to join us and talk about this past year's air show and its how it was conducted, the feedback from it, the review of the budget that took place last year. Staff management has worked with the air show committee to prepare a draft budget for this next year, 2023, and that's what's included in this agenda item. I've included some additional thoughts for consideration for the board of directors based on the variety of feedback I've heard from the air show committee, individual directors, management staff. And so that's what we have here presented for you today. And we're happy to take questions. And Mr. Love is happy to take questions if the board had any.
All right, thank you.
Formally and legally, I'm David Love. I'm chairman of the Air Show and Family Festival Committee, representing the committee. I don't actually have formal comments to make, but I'm here at your leisure to answer questions if any of the board has them.
Great. Mary, do you have any questions?
No question. Well, I really like what Rob's put together here for things to think about. You know, and yeah, and you. I've been out campaigning, surprise, and talked to a lot of people, and people like the air show. They see, you know, it's an event that they come to. So I'm supportive of this year, but I'm also thinking that what he's got here is really good stuff. So it's more a comment, and I may have some questions later and more comments, but right off.
No questions.
I have a few questions. I know under the budget, David, in the car rental section, how many cars are we talking about for $5,000?
This last time, we probably had about 20,
Wow.
but sometimes only for one day. For instance, when the military comes in, they do everything, but they don't have a car. So we give them a car for a day to drive back and forth. When our air show people come in, you'll have a pilot, but they'll need to bring a crew chief and someone else to maintain the airplane for safety reasons and that stuff. So usually they can share the car. The cost for us per car doubled this year over 2 years ago. So the cars are still fairly small. So you're thinking about a 4-day slot, because you have to understand that on Thursday, everybody has to fly, FAA regulation. On Friday, we do the reserve show. On Saturday, we fly, and then on Sunday, they leave. And this last year, the rental car company said we had to pay for Sunday even if we didn't use it because they weren't open and they wouldn't take the cars back. So my per day cost got nutsy because I was paying for days when the cars were parked. If we do this again, we're going to look at a couple other vendors. Their exclusivity seems to give them a little bit of leverage on us. So that was why the car days were as high as they were.
Okay, yeah, I wondered about that. I also thought, like, now that we have TART Connect running, if that might enable us to maybe spend less on, if you're talking about cars that are sitting there and they're only used occasionally, maybe something like that.
And we've gotten a really good rate from the folks over here for rooms, so that will make it easier for us too, because we're just shuttling, all we're doing is shuttling them to their room, and they walk out at night and usually eat right in the neighborhood here because we've got enough good restaurants.
Okay.
But they've got to be here at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning to prep their airplane, to do the briefings and all that. So we've got also keep them pretty mobile, but it's one of our biggest things we wrestle with also. So good question.
Okay, thank you. Then the next question I have is, in the ICAS conference, 3 attendees at $4,000. I wonder, like, is this absolutely necessary to do the air show? Because this kind of seems like we're really going outside the specific event at this point.
That's the International Council of Air Shows. It's held in Las Vegas every year. All of the air show performers in the United States come. It's a trade show. All of the folks who have historic aircraft come, all the museums and that. All of the folks who put things on the runway, like simulators and displays and all, they all come. And we who run air shows all go, and therefore we try to engage them to come here with us, fit in their schedule, negotiate the best price possible. So it's the only face-to-face opportunity. It's 3 days to basically meet with all these folks. The other part is we do about 10 safety seminars about how to put a air show on, new things we've learned from air shows. When we had the Reno Air Race accident, we spent actually a whole day analyzing that and what happened and how we can learn from it so other air shows can avoid any of the potential pitfalls that happened in that particular event. So it's also a safety thing. Military are all there. So the military also explain what they have available for air shows, what it's like, how to write your proposal to them, how to get them scheduled, and get those folks to come in. And they've brought trailers here for our STEM stuff. They've brought presentations, but you've got to engage them because everybody's competing for the few summer months to get it scheduled. And if you're not on the schedule, sorry. So that's basically what it is. That's how we acquire the people who come here. That's how we as a committee learn the state-of-the-art stuff for airshow safety and presentation. That's how we engage with others in our field so that we learn from each other as in a trade show. So it's 3/4 seminars, 1/4 an opportunity to just basically be on the floor with people and say, hey, I got an air show up here in Truckee. This is when it is. We really like your act. Would you think about coming for us for next summer? We suffered this last year because we didn't go, and therefore we were kind of tail end Charlie, so to speak, trying to find someone who wasn't already engaged during the period we wanted to. So that's it. That's exactly what we do. It's sort of the state of the art. It's sort of the methodology of putting on an air show, and we get smarter and safer. They gave us 4 years ago a safety award for what we did here. We were internationally recognized by that group at that thing for the quality of what we did here in safety at Truckee. So that's what it is. So we fly down southwest out of Reno, stay 3 nights. We get 50% off hotel rooms for 3 nights. It goes 8-9 hours a day for 3 days.
Okay. And then you've got $4,000 for an announcer. Is this like a celebrity announcer? I'm just wondering, that $4,000 seems like a lot of money for an announcer.
An announcer has to be someone qualified under FAA and NTSB rules because they're part of the safety. They have to be certified.
Okay.
They have to have experience in previous air shows. And that's actually probably anywhere from 5 to 3,000 under the kind of going rate. We actually have 2 people who are out of Beale, actually, and said, David, if you get the air show next year, if we were to hire someone at the Reno Air Races rate, $8,000 or $9,000 per day. So we're actually getting a pretty good deal, but you just can't, have someone off the street come in who's got a good ability to present and speak, do it. They have to have a lot of qualifications and to do that, gone through training to do it, because they're part of the safety of an air show. Huge. Our previous announcer for us, Steve Strefakakis, was cited and given all kinds of awards for what he did at Reno during the air races to save hundreds of lives by his action and quick thinking. Steve sadly died a couple of years ago of a medical condition, but that's what is expected of that air show announcer. If it all goes bad, he or she's the person who will make sure we at least mitigate the damage when something is happening.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Teresa, did you have any questions for David?
No questions.
Okay. We had several emails, public comment. Those will be attached in the minutes. And if anyone in the room would like to make public comment on the air show, feel free. Thanks, David.
Thank you all.
Hi there.
Hi.
My name's Carrie Towers. I've been living in Truckee for 18 years. I'm a flight instructor. I gave scenic flights in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I went on to become an airline pilot, and then I flew for NetJets. So I've run the gamut in aviation as far as the pilot goes. With each chapter of that career, I'm now retired and raising kids here. I have come across so many people who were inspired to become pilots or to work in aviation through air shows. In my years of flying all over the country, going to different air shows, I'm very pro. The fact that we have an air show in Truckee is pretty amazing. And I'm very involved with the youth here in Truckee. I coach helped start the women's lacrosse for the young kids. And I always think about some of these kids who I've known since 3rd grade, and aviation is a wonderful career to get into, and if we can offer that window right here in Truckee when a lot of kids may not know what they do, this is a great opportunity to turn people on to flying. And whether it's being a pilot, a flight attendant, a mechanic, going into the military, just being in the world of aviation. You have this beautiful airport here, the beautiful backdrop, and I would love to see the air show stick around, and primarily to inspire the youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
My name is Jim Conlon. I'm the newly elected president for the Truckee Optimist Club, and I would like to show support for the Truckee Air Show based on our 65 to 70 members that we have, and we're really hoping that you guys will have it, okay? I thought if you saw me as a new president for the Optimist Club, you'd say, yes, we have to go ahead with this. Okay, all right, I'll put my mask back on. Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Chris Henderson. Hello, everybody. First, I would like to encourage the board to vote for the air show, because this is one of the few things that the entire community can benefit from at this airport. Second, I would really like to commend staff for the creative thinking in the staff report. One of the things that I just said that we maybe don't actually know is that our community benefits from the air show. We know lots of people show up, but we don't know anything about those people. And so the idea of ticketing the air show and gathering as much demographic information as we can will really help us understand just how much of a reach we have and how we can tune this thing to best benefit the community in the future. So again, I hope you'll vote for it. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
My name is Ginger Mansell, and I'm curious as to why you would vote no for the air show. If it's the money aspect, and you get your money from our taxes, for our property taxes. Have you thought about people who have to pay for school money? My kids have never been to a public school. They've been out of school 30 years, and I still have to pay on my taxes for the school district. What are other things that we pay for on our taxes? The community pool, the rec and park. Do I use the soccer fields that everybody has, the water that it takes to keep that going, and it's water, that is important here now. I don't use soccer fields. I don't even have a dog anymore, so I don't use the dog parks. But those are all community efforts that makes the community. So if it's paid for out of our taxes, then we need to use it and utilize it, just as we do the airport. And you're saying very few people use the airport? Well, very few people might not have school children. Very few people might not, compared to all the people who live here, use the soccer fields or the dog parks. So saying that it's a small usage isn't a good enough reason to not support the things. And if you're going to support the Boys and Girls Club, who emphasized aviation up one side and down the other, camps and this and that with aviation, yet deny the community of an air show which brings the community together, would you say that's not ethical? Or what would you say that was? I am curious why anyone would vote no on something like that, when there are many people in town who don't utilize all the things that are out there. And people who fly in, they use our hotels. They give money back to the town. They use our hotels, they rent cars, they go to the grocery stores, they go shopping. They do give back to the town. So promoting the airport, promoting the air show, promoting things that happen on the airport, like camps, like Space Camp or Mission to Mars, those are all part of town community. And if you support all the other stuff, you really need to support the airport and what happens here, because you're on the airport board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ginger. Is anybody else in the room? Okay.
Thank you, Madam President. First off, I thank the board for considering a 2023 Air Show and Family Festival. I wholeheartedly support having an air show next year. You have had an award-winning air show for several years, and I hope that you will support an air show like last year's. 2 or 3 decades, now I'm going to touch on some of the bulleted items that are in the tab. 2 or 3 decades ago, we tried various kinds of fees for tickets and fees for parking, and the folks who have run the past several years' air shows pegged it at free entrance and free parking. Charging for entrance, it's just a pain in the neck. And how does one limit capacity to a specific number? Who's going to stand outside the gate here and tell people they can't attend the air show because they've reached the capacity? You throw the doors wide open and take all comers. I had some sarcastic remarks in there, but I left them out. Okay, the more people who attend the air show, the more the vendors, especially the food vendors, prosper. My opinion of killing the air show and having some sort of STEM thing going on year-round is nuts. We already have Boys and Girls Clubs doing STEM and aviation year-round. And we've heard other stuff about STEM and aviation all year round. What's wrong with having an air show and having year-round STEM programs also? Now, this is not really on the air show, but it's under the tab. And I thank you, Manager Etnier, for bringing up the community hangar and the possibility of having it done in 2025. Oh, by the way, it's going to be expensive. But as one director has said on other projects, quote, we can bond it, unquote. More power to you, Manager Etnier, to get this ball rolling after a decade of its being talked about and shoved into the corner. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah. Okay, anyone else in the room? Oh, we have a Zoom. Grant, would you like to speak?
Yes. Hi, my name is Grant, and some people say that board members who question having the air show are anti-aviation and anti-STEM education for our children. I don't believe that is true. What I have heard in past board discussions seem to be legitimate concerns regarding the district's liability and concerns regarding the costs associated with putting on this one-day event. That is their fiduciary responsibility. Personally, I think their proposed budget of nearly $250,000 for a one-day event is significant. And I want my elected officials to think carefully about how they are spending the district's money. Besides the proposed costs, there are hidden ones that do not show up in this budget, such as the time the GM and the staff put in to ensure that a safe event is held, and the loss of income from airport operations that will not occur as the airport is closed on a busy peak season day. The air show is a fun family event that many people enjoy. There are some who claim that the air show is a great way to provide STEM education, and that it may inspire young people to enter the field of aviation. Personally, I believe that $250,000 could be would reach and possibly inspire thousands of more young people who live both in and outside of our district than a one-day event. I wouldn't say that the air show should go away. Instead, the board should look at alternative funding sources. And I was happy to see that the GM has proposed a few ideas for helping fund future air shows. I would wholeheartedly support some of these options. I also think that corporate and individual sponsorship should be strongly considered. Sponsorships for community events is not a unique idea. Consider music in the park, concerts at Commons Beach, Truckee Thursdays, and even 4th of July events. There is one group that claims to be Friends of the Truckee Tahoe Airport, FOTA. On their website, they also claim to support STEM education and the air show. This appears to be a perfect match. Recently, FOTA has spent thousands on ads and mailers supporting certain candidates. A mailer that I have lists 10 businesses and nonprofits who apparently have donated to them this money. Yet FOTA does not appear to have ever been a sponsor of the air show. They need to be asked. If each of their friends ponied up $20,000, the cost of the air show would essentially be covered. This seems to be the best of both worlds. The air show goes on, and the district can spend our money on long-term, ongoing STEM programs. That seems like it would be a good return on a sustainable investment. So thank you to the board members who would consider this outlandish proposal.
Thank you, Grant. I see Todd's hand up.
Hi. Thank you. I do agree that you should support this air show. I would like, though, for you to take a closer look at the line items of the budget and make this a more transparent project for the community, as these are our tax dollars. I look at some of these line items $20,000 for accommodations, as Director Diamond pointed out. Money for a conference and professional fees. I'd love it if you guys paid my professional association fees. I'm here in Truckee helping out. Event management, $7,500 for fuel. For who? I mean, you're already paying thousands and thousands of dollars for the participants for your acts that you're hiring. So having never put on an air show in my life, I do have some experience with other type events. I would ask the board to bring in an outside type of auditor. I work with auditors all the time. There are others that put on air shows to take a look at this budget and give us some insights into where we can potentially save some money. Maybe look at taking bids on some of these high dollar items like the shade tents and the sound system. And there are even announcers out there. So I would like us to continue on with the air show, but I would like us to make sure that we are spending our tax dollars diligently. A 5% reduction gives us over $10,000 more to invest into STEM, as the previous speaker, Grant, was noting for ongoing education. Putting in a few audits and doing our due diligence to save our money is my recommendation, along with continuing the air show. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Oh. Mike.
Good evening. Mike Daniel. So just a couple comments. I've actually done a bit of work in the event space, primarily with Red Bull in the action sports world. And one way I like to think about and look, and I encourage you all to think about the next air show, is pre and post event. There's tons of technology and ways to plug into what everybody calls a one-day show. And, there's ways to bring in local businesses. There's ways to orchestrate and shift traffic, and there's ways to push engagement throughout the entire year, pre and post, and I've got some great ideas around that, so hopefully I can share those at some point. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Okay. Is that it for public comment? Looks like it. All right. You're usually the motion maker. Oh.
Can we
I'll do it.
answer something?
Oh, sorry?
Can we
You guys hear me okay?
Teresa.
Oh, we had discussion. You want to discuss some more?
We can hear you, Teresa.
Just based on public comment.
Oh, based on, okay, go ahead.
Well, Teresa.
Well, I was gonna make a motion, but if David's gonna talk, I'm fine with that.
Okay, we'll let David talk and then you can make a motion.
Okay. Yeah, I think I feel Grant's pain on this. I'm shocked at Todd's position on this. And mostly I agree with what Mike just stated. I feel like we are leaving a lot of opportunities on the table here simply because we do this the way we've always done it. And so I applaud Rob and the staff report for all those ideas. I do believe that they're worth looking into these things. I think one of David Love has expressed to us in the past that they've had a hard time getting corporate sponsorship. And I'd argue, as somebody from the marketing space, that one of the issues is that we have no metrics on this. We think how many people, we guess how many people showed up, but we don't know the demographics of the people. We don't know where they're from. We don't know anything about them. And I think if you did have that information, you'd find that there would be many corporate sponsors, not just local, but international, that would be very interested in participating in an event this size. So I thank all three of those public commenters for those perspectives.
May I make a comment? I support the air show. I think they did a fabulous job last year. I like the idea of looking at options as Rob has outlined. I'm opposed to limiting attendance. I mean, I was there and it was just fabulous seeing all the people who were there enjoying the air show. So I'm going to support the air show, and I would like Rob to work with the air show committee to explore the options. I mean, we got a lot of ideas here. You know, I don't think we can solve any of them tonight, but let's work on them.
So, yeah, I went to the air show, and people enjoyed it. I do think Grant brought up some interesting ideas in terms of that reach out and the GM and staff time, something to think about. You know, that it is a big commitment of staff time. And I support it. I'd like to see it it's going in the budget, but I'd like maybe in the first quarter that the air show comes back incorporating some of these ideas and comes back and talks to us and works with Rob and staff to see maybe where we can tighten up some of it or, you know, reaching out to corporate. What would they need in order to put funding in terms of demographics? Where should we be going? And Mike has some of those ideas as well. So, you know, I think these are really powerful, and I'm really glad you're thinking this way, and we'll have it this year.
Well, it's really nice to see so many engaged and excited people about the air show, and lots of new ideas, I think. And David, it sounds like you've got maybe a bunch of new volunteers.
Sounds good.
So it feels good to have the community support it and also be willing to step up and give some ideas and sort of flesh it out a little bit. So does anyone want to make a motion?
Teresa, were you
Okay.
going? Go for
ahead.
it.
As long as you guys can hear me, I want to make a motion that we approve the 2023 Truckee Tahoe Airport District Air Show and Family Festival, STEM Festival, budget not to exceed $250,000 as presented.
Second.
All right, well, do we want to provide direction to staff to work with the air show and come back to us in first quarter with some of these other ideas and how they're going to incorporate that? Just an idea.
I think we have already.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's already, the ball's already starting to roll on that, Mary. Yeah.
Rob's on it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Roll call. Director Diamond?
Last year I voted no. This year I'm going to vote yes because of the public comments. Chris, Ginger, this is truly one of the big public benefits that we can do. We just, in my opinion, need to do it much better in terms of finances.
Director Hetherington?
Yes.
Director Odette?
Yes.
Director Rolfe?
Yes.
And Director Stevens?
Yes.
Yay. Okay. Moving on to budget, I had a request from the public to hold public comment at the beginning so that the dog can be let out.
Sadie really appreciates it. She is an hour and 15 minutes past her dinner time. So as you guys look at your budget for the year, I'd like you to consider the following. Truckee is not a bargain for its users. It is the only airport in the surrounding area with landing fees. Fuel is much more expensive at Truckee than Reno Stead, South Lake Tahoe, Carson City, or Minden's airports. Oakland and San Jose have cheaper fuel than Truckee. The hangars at Truckee are also more expensive than all the surrounding airports. Aviation nonprofits are generally subsidized in other surrounding airports, but not so much at Truckee. Every airplane located on this field pays property taxes on its airplane if they're hangared here. It's likely that most of the people who rent a hangar either live in the area full-time or have a vacation home. That means that those folks are also paying property taxes to the county, as well as the airport property tax levy. Pilots also pay a steep fuel tax, which goes to subsidize the FAA, the largest funder of improvements to runways and operations at this airport. Now we have landing fees, tie-down fees, and expensive hangar rates. Please take this into consideration as you finalize your budget. And I'd also like to say, I only use 10% of the roads in Truckee, and I just don't think it's fair that I have to pay for all the plowing in the wintertime for all those other roads. Isn't that the way we're supposed to think these days? Thank you.
Thank you, John. Would anyone else like to make public comment on the budget?
Thank you, Madam President.
Okay.
Page 5 shows $1.1 million budgeted to go out the door to things that mostly have little or nothing to do with the airport or aviation, while only $670,000 is budgeted for repairs and maintenance, plus $296,000 for pavement and facilities maintenance, totaling $966,000. When are you going to budget big money for needed repairs of hangars and for pursuing building a community hangar, innovation hangar, call it what you want? Are the hangars going to fix themselves? Are the plans for the Quonset hut style building and the associated infrastructure going to sit around while we continue to have vehicles driving into the existing hangar area? And that I already said that, thanked Manager Etnier for getting the ball rolling. It seems that the board's priority is to give away tax money that is allocated for the operation and maintenance of the district instead of having a higher priority of being stewards of the hangar system, part of the airport infrastructure. On page 10, I wholeheartedly applaud the forward movement of a much-needed permanent tower. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Any other public comment on the budget? Anything on Zoom? Okay. All right. Budget.
Thank you, Director Rolfe. We're going to use the podium here today just to be formal. This is our 2023 budget, and we thought we'd tackle it the right way. This is our third meeting on the budget for 2023. We first met in August, had a capital workshop talking about long-term capital projects. Specifically, we talked about future reserves and reserve policies and that concept. And then in September, we talked about both our operating and capital budget as our initial draft. And here we are in October with our final budget preparation and presentation here today. You'll see on the screen here as part of the budget package and as part of my regular GM report now is that we have our mission statement, which guides us in what we're doing and certainly guided the development of our budget for 2023. And as I've been talking about for some time now, using this model here of sustainability for airports, is kind of the overarching methodology I looked at this year with the team here to categorize and look at what we're doing across these different 4 areas of economic viability, operational efficiency, natural resource conservation, and social responsibility. It's our duty here at the airport district to address all 4 of these quadrants as we develop a budget, talk about both revenues and expenditures. The table of contents, I will just address the first part here with a couple comments, and that's really our operating capital budget drivers, and then I'll turn it over to Director of Finance, Wu, to walk through the budget at a high level and be able to answer questions you might have or the public might have still. So on to the next slide. I've talked a little bit about this last month as budget drivers. Taking this year's budget and where we're at to date and our forecast for the rest of this year, looking at large things that are impacting potentially our budget for next year. We don't have the crystal ball here of looking at what's going to happen. We do know we're leaning into recession kind of economy. That's pretty clear. We know we have some significant hazards that I think are widely recognized in the way of fire danger for this community, and also a housing shortage for this community for our employees. So those are definitely high-level budget drivers that we look at and think about, and those are aspects that are incorporated in the 2023 budget. On the left side here, the left quadrant, using the same model of airport sustainability, we look at economic drivers here, or economic sustainability. One thing I'm recommending that we continue to move forward on, I've talked about this a little bit, is developing a reserve policy and a reserve strategy going forward, spending the next several months working in workshops, deliver with the board and the management and the members of the public, develop a long-term plan about identifying what our long-term reserve needs are for maintaining hangars, replacing hangars, pavement management outside of what is funded by AIP, FAA grants, and also what we want to do with the existing vacant land that we have for long-term development, whether it be a community hangar or some other idea. There's a lot of ideas on the books here that have had some effort and time and energy behind them, and really looking at those from a fresh set of eyes and talking about what we want to look and start to plan for over the near horizon in our long-term strategy for this airport in the district. Of course, some investment in employee housing. There's some line items in the budget to address that. We do have a new landing fees, a new source of revenue for the airport to address our commitment to social responsibility and safety, funding almost $1 million a year in the airport tower here. And we're currently in a contract tower and looking long-term also on how we might make that a permanent structure with permanent staffing, contract, FAA, in some way or fashion. Over in the right quadrant, let's hit a couple of highlights here of our planning assumptions and economic drivers or demand drivers. In our operational efficiencies, we are already in the process working with the board, and we'll continue for the next several months updating our existing board policy instructions, which kind of drives what we do. We talked about policy 311. That's one of the ones I suggest we should look at again in all the policies and continue to refresh and update those and make sure they're meeting our current needs of our currently elected board of directors. We are onboarding and will be onboarding a program called Go Civics, which is a customer relations and facility management software system, to move us from a paper-based system we have now and a lot of Excel spreadsheets that are stovepipe in natures, and bring those in together into one system so we can look across our operations on a regular basis and see and track our efficiency across a lot of areas of work, whether it's maintenance or budgeting, or how we're spending our time in the ramp, fueling, those kind of things. And also how we're engaging our customers, from our hangar customers to our customers in the district as well, and having a database to track that's visible to all of us here across the district staff. We do have a major runway reconstruction plan for next year, and we'll continue to work through that as we develop timelines around awarding a contract this next year, and how that will impact our customers and how that will impact our community as we limit ourselves for a couple months, most likely, to just one runway, and how that might impact our local residents. Of course, we're still in the process of a master plan update, and which will also most likely come an airport layout plan update, and that will consume a lot of our time and effort over the next several months into next year as well. Under natural resources and sustainability, the biggest piece here, I would say, beyond all those bullet points there, is really continued movement of sustainable aviation fuel from 25% of our Jet A fuel load right now to moving throughout the year to a 50% level and to a 75% level of our Jet A load that we provide to our Jet A customers here. And again, that's sustainable aviation fuel is what SAF is. On social responsibility in the bottom right-hand side of the screen there, we will look at our home basing incentive program we have here along with our Fly Quiet programs. Those are two programs, I think, that have several levels to them that has been on the board's list of things to review for some time now, and I think we'll be in a position over the next several months into next year to really take a good solid look at that, working with our local community members to how we can maximize those or perhaps change some of those programs to benefit our entire community and our aviation community as well. I mentioned looking at our community development policy, our community benefit policy. We have a policy 311 we call it, PI 311, but we have a lot of community benefit programs here that don't reside just in that policy. And they are, some are in other policies, some don't have a policy. I would love to spend some time and effort with the board and our community talking about how we either consolidate those or at least take those things that are outside of policy and create policies to address those. So there's a lot of one-off things happening right now, and I'd love to be consistent across, and we actually are required to be consistent and fair to our folks here at the airport and what we do in our airport district. And those are the highlights of the demand drivers across those four quadrants of airport sustainability. I'm going to turn the microphone over to Kelly Wu right now, our Director of Finance, to talk through our overview and detailed budget.
Thanks, Rob. How's that?
Great.
Good evening. Tonight we're presenting the 2023 final budget for approval and going over the various revenues and expenditures. We've redesigned our budget process and are focused on creating a plan for a sustainable airport that is well-maintained, safe, and serves the community. Can anyone here tell me what year the airport was formed? Ready, go. 58. Who said it first? Mary, your winner chicken dinner.
By a vote of 562 people.
Our airport was formed in 1958, you're right, and has the distinction of being the very first special district comprised of two counties, Nevada and Placer. Our district plays a vital role in providing weather information, navigation assistance, and emergency landing facilities. We also provide access for emergency medical, fire, and search and rescue services, in addition to aviation, STEM education programs, and our local youth. We're the base for firefighting, aircraft, and care flight, thanks to which many lives and property have been saved because the airport facilitates quicker emergency response times. For example, you'll recall this summer, there was a fire out here on the Legacy Trail that was spotted by the control tower, contained, and extinguished in a matter of hours thanks to our close proximity and at the ready firefighting teams. So let's begin by looking at some revenue. First off, I just want to note that, can you slide up a little bit, Lauren? We have taken out the FAA grant revenue from this so that we can truly look at operating revenues year over year and have a good comparison going forward. Because as you know, some years we could get 400,000, some years we could get 4 million. So this is truly just our regular operating revenue. We have increased airside revenues due to the new jet fuel pricing matrix and our new landing fee. We'd like to increase our sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF, to 75% by the end of 2023. So there'll be added fees for that. And we have our landing fee that we started the first of this month, carrying that forward. We've got consistent other revenues. There's no major changes to our OBL, which is other business leasing. warehouse revenues, hangar revenue. The only thing we're trying to work on is maximizing utilization of every hangar that we have and decreasing the turnover time when a tenant moves out. So our overall airport operations revenue is 59% and property tax revenue 41%. Next page, please. And now we'll have a look at operating expenses. So total operating expenses for 2023 will be $17 million. 22% of that are cost of goods sold, and that's just based on the increase in sales of jet fuel, the raw price of the jet fuel, and increased delivery of the SAF, sustainable aviation fuel. 26% payroll and benefits, and that includes COLA and merit increases, as well as insurance and the employer match for our CalPERS pension program. We're also funding the once per year unfunded liability, which has gone down from 228 this year to 211 next year. We'll be making our annual 500,000 ADP or additional discretionary payment to that UAL in November, and are budgeting to do the same next year. There are no major changes to operating G&A, save for reorganizing the sponsorship partnerships that we'll talk about here in a few minutes, just recategorizing some things. Next slide, please. This is the summary operating budget, and based on these revenues, we're aiming to end the year with a net income of $7.3 million, which is at the bottom of that green column. But in this report, you'll see the forecasted 2022 original budget, dollar and percent change, as well as 2023 in green, and the dollar and percent change to 2022 actuals. Next slide, please. And here we have the detailed version of that budget. And this is showing the details from each category. On the far left-hand side, you'll see a reference key, and that lines up with the budget reference guide further in this document to explain what's in each category. The blue columns are forecasted 2022. So that's 7 months of actuals with 5 months of budget, followed by dollar and percent change. The yellow column is the original 2022 budget. Green is 23, followed by dollar and percent change to 2022 actuals. And we'll talk more about those budget categories in the reference guide. If you could go to page 9. Thanks. This is our cash and capital projections. We're estimating to end 2022 with $6 million in cash, and that's in the yellow column, and then budgeting to end 2023 with $11 million in the green. Next slide. And here we have our capital project request list. The 2023 capital project request list includes items identified in our facility maintenance plan, as well as needed equipment and projects indicated by the team. We've created 3 categories to house these various requests that we've spoken about in the past: so the development fund, new machinery and equipment, and replacement reserve. And down there toward the bottom, you'll see the TTAD portion of the runway 228 reconstruction. The piece that is funded by us versus the FAA. And then the remaining $1.5 million are broken down into those 3 categories. Next slide. And here we have the budget reference guide. It's numbered and matches the number to the category on the far left side of that detailed budget that we saw earlier, and explains what is in each category. For example, 100 low lead fuel, we're budgeting 100,000 gallons at an average retail price of $638. Jet A, 680,000 at an average retail price of $856, and so on. So it kind of goes through each category. If you could go to page 13, which is the last page of the reference guide. I just wanted to quickly walk through in a little bit more detail the realignment of the sponsorship partnership program, kind of the way that we group things. So anything that is under $5,000 budget is still budgeted at $120,000. Those are the awards like sports uniforms, music performances, trail cleanups, things of that nature. The community sponsorships over 5,000 is budgeted at 500,000. And those are going to be the housing, so the JPA for housing, transportation, so we've got TART Connect, the TART 267 corridor, TART Free Fares box, and then contract for services, and that's the Boys and Girls Club. So what's left is in agency partnerships, and that's the 500,000, and that is those partnerships that are screened through the TTCF that we approved earlier tonight. Next page. Finally, I just wanted to touch briefly on our property tax allocations from the 2 counties that we receive property taxes from. So this is Nevada County. Sorry, it's hard to see. We are a part of the dark blue district piece of the pie there. And we receive 1.00898% of the fund total. Next page. So the top part here just shows the breakdown of the different categories that receive funding. So we are in the district total, that 19%, and then lower down, you'll see how that 19% is broken down, and we are down. No, sorry. And it's approximately 2.2 million from Nevada County. And then next, we have Placer County, and they're done a little bit differently. We're a part of that very small slice of pie called multi-county special districts, the 2.9%. And we receive 0.561173% of their total fund. And here you can see the breakdown of the recipients, and then our portion, which is approximately 5 million. Back in 2015, the rates indicated an average of both counties was $28 per 100,000 assessed value. We don't have an updated version of that yet, but I am working to find out what that is with both counties. And actually, I'd like to see what it is split, and then we can find out what the average is from there. And finally, on the last page, I just included this quote because I think it truly speaks to what we are trying to accomplish here at the Truckee Tahoe Airport District. This really is more than just a bunch of numbers. It speaks to our values, what we believe in, and how we see the future. Our goal is to support this amazing airport, support this outstanding staff, and support this wonderful community. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions?
I would like to specifically discuss the $250,000 item listed in capital projects for 2023, since this is a new concept, housing development, purchase of housing, or fund JPA to do so. My impression is this is the idea of putting some money in to actually getting something done, as opposed to the Mountain Housing Council talking. This is doing.
This is doing, and
well,
this is working
that's the
directly
idea.
with the
I'd like to
JPA.
hear more about it,
Yeah,
Rob.
I was gonna say, Rob,
Yeah,
go ahead.
happy to address some comments on that. And Lauren, please, as a member of the JPA Board of Directors, feel free to add some here too. The JPA has been working recently on a new program, and in the coming months, I expect their team and Executive Director to be in here, the Board of Directors, along with all the other public agencies, to update everybody on what they're working on and what they expect to be able to achieve. Right now, they're working on a plan to create actionable items in the way of not just funding the JPA as an administrative body to coordinate housing for public employees, but also not just addressing public employees, but all employees, all 16,000 employees of the district, the North Lake Tahoe area, and being able to create the right mechanisms under the JPA to allow funding for all the public agencies and outside funding to bring into one or two pots of money that can appropriately be divided and spent directly either to purchase homes, master lease homes, develop property. Those are kind of the key areas that actually get funding behind those concepts. and they have a very robust plan that they'll be bringing out here in the very near future that I believe initial estimates look at from initial commitments of the various public entities that are involved in the JPA, which includes Nevada County, Placer County, all of our local public districts, the town, the fire district, the airport district, hospital district, public utility district. It looks like right now there's roughly over 5 years, they're estimating about $10 million coming in through loose commitments right now. I'm suggesting that we earmark right now $250,000 for next year's budget to be prepared to invest in this JPA so they can begin pursuing actionable items of acquiring, master leasing, and developing property within the district to address both public employees and all employees, particularly the AMI 80 to 120 range, was specifically their mission set to address, as other public agencies already have a mission to address low-income housing, and it's pretty robust programs already in place for that. Does that help answer that specific question?
Yes.
Some more to come, but I'd love to earmark some money in the budget for further action this next year.
Just some comments. On page 3, which is your overall, where you break it out, economic, operational, natural, and social, I think this is really a great bullet aspect of how we're moving. Two of the things that I kind of, and I think in terms of operational, in terms of safety, that's a big thing. And under operational, this safety in terms of pilot outreach and overflights, and, that's a big, we care about pilot safety. And then under social, the idea of addressing concerns by the neighborhoods for their safety. So that would just be another bullet that I can see value in adding into that area, because that's what we are concerned about.
Yeah, those are great comments, and I would say the genesis of most of these items under these 4 quadrants is things that are different than the normal budget in 2022, or things that were going up or down budgetarily.
Mm-hmm.
We have a pretty robust budget this year and going next year that doesn't have any major modifications to it that addresses those items that you were talking about. Certainly safety is at the foremost of what we do. We have a pretty robust budget around that. We're not suggesting that double or be decreased. Same with pilot outreach and community outreach. So I think those are items I didn't necessarily list specifically as different. I tried to list things that were a little bit more different and were either time-consuming or areas that we wanted to shift more budget towards. But those items certainly are very important to what we're doing,
Right.
and part of the baseline, I would say, of things for the district that are important.
Well, the idea under social of addressing the increasing overflights for those neighborhoods, because the aviation forecast shows us growing by 50% by 2040. And for those neighbors that are affected, how, that's a long-term plan of thinking about their safety. The next page under, and I really like that you didn't include the FAA grant revenue in here, but I think it would be a useful thing to have a star on here that says FAA grant revenue is this amount.
Mm-hmm.
On the next line, the budgeted operating expenses, I would like where you have interest expense of $257,000. It would be useful again here to star that $240,000 of that is for the hangar interest, and $17,000 I assume for the grader that we, just like last year, it was
217 is the interest, and then the rest is greater.
Okay, so it was 240 last year, so it's only 217 this year?
240 was the budget last year, but
Okay.
it goes down over time.
But if we could star that, just because transparency to the,
And that is that's been added.
Okay. Yeah, that's just useful, because I carry this around.
It's listed further in the document, but I can put it on the chart.
Yeah,
if we
It's
need
been
it.
added as a key reference guide, as a call out specifically on those items.
It's on that page 13.
Okay, well, it would be helpful to me on here. But I can just do it on my copy. Going to the detail operating budget final I'd still like to see the breakout for T hangers and box hangers and the other business leasing per each item, but I don't know that anybody else wants to see it. So I like how you're doing it in the monthlies, because I do like to see the breakout per each one, not just all grouped together. I assume nobody else really wants it high level, right? Okay, okay. The other one is going back to, what I found very interesting in this was page 15, the two county tax loads. And just for interest, I added up what Nevada County contributes, which is to Tahoe Forest Hospital, TTSA, Truckee Cemetery, Donner Rec and Park, Truckee Fire, Truckee Sanitary, Truckee Tahoe Airport. That all adds up to $26,283,833, which, you know, that's an important number. And then I went to Placer County, and it's a $25,997, and then I subtracted out the American River Fire and San Juan Water, because that's not East County, and they're contributing $21,547,264. So I found that very intriguing, you know, because people see Placer County and say, oh, well, Placer County contributes more to the airport. But I want us to be aware that Nevada County, in terms of what it contributes to our region, is much more than what Placer County contributes to this region. So I found that very interesting, by like $4,700, 4.7 million, about 5 million more coming from Nevada County to east side. So those were my only comments, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. I have no comments on this. Great job.
Teresa, do you have any comments or questions?
Just that they did a great job. Really like the new format.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll agree with that. Thank you so much for all your hard work. I appreciate it.
I'd like to make one more comment on the issue of we're charging so much to everybody here. I don't compare this airport to Minden or Stead or even South Lake. You know, I think that, you know, we're more like Aspen, Telluride, and I don't think we're overcharging for hangars. I remember when we approved the executive hangars, we got them approved on a 3-1 vote by raising the amount we charged, and I think in some cases maybe we don't charge enough. And we added the landing fee. We have a lot of plant and equipment to support here, and that's addressed a little bit in Rob's suggestion of a reserve fund. There's a lot of money to maintain this, and this Tom keeps talking about hangar row roofs and things like this. You know, we've got some work to do on this place, and maintain safety, et cetera. So I don't think we're overcharging pilots for use of this airport. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Okay. So we all had a chance to read the board ad hoc committee reports. Does anybody want to?
So I think we need a motion for the budget.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget.
Second.
We had public comment earlier. Sorry, Kelly. It's fine.
So we have a motion by Mary and a second by Rick. I'll go roll call. Director Diamond?
Yes.
Director Hetherington?
Yes.
Director Odette?
Yes.
Director Rolfe?
Yes.
Director Stevens?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Kelly, for all this work. Yeah.
It's months of work, Kelly. We appreciate it. Yeah, you did a great job. Okay. All right, I guess I was moving too quickly. Ad hoc committee reports. Does anybody want to discuss any of these that we all had access to read about? Anything you want to pull out and discuss, Rob?
Just I think Rick's question earlier about housing was the only one I wanted to talk about more, but I think we've covered that now, and there's more to come on the JPA and housing, and unless you want to add some more, Lauren?
I have notes from our workshop if you guys would like to hear about that. But do you have anything for Mountain Housing Council, Rick?
I think Mountain Housing Mountain Housing Council is heading towards its sunset, and this is why what we're putting in here is get stuff done. GSD.
That's all, though. Thank you.
I have just one comment in that I was very appreciative on page 8 of, it's actually number something, 24, but in her report where she talks about opportunity for non-government employee workforce. This is huge, and it's an awesome idea. You know, its priority is government, but there's a lot, we need to serve everybody. So that, I just wanted to give kudos to that. Thank you.
Yeah, we held our strategic plan workshop last Friday, and Emily did and Shauna did a really great job of showing like a pie of 16,000 individuals that work here, and our workforce housing agency representing 2,300 people within that pie. But we reviewed the phases that Shauna's been working on to help us develop a strategic plan that will serve our members and the community over the next 5 to 7 years. We discussed work that we want to put into the strategic plan in the following areas. So regarding funding, the board gave direction to pursue the development of a 501c3 workforce housing fund to support accelerated housing solutions for the Truckee Tahoe workforce. Two options were presented to the board of developing a fund solely for JPA member employees, or option two, to develop two funds, a fund for workforce housing agency employees, member employees, and a fund which would be turned into a 501c3 so we could gather philanthropic dollars and monies from agencies willing to contribute to help address the broader workforce housing needs to families and individuals that live in our community that are not employees of the member agencies. So we gave direction to Shauna to help us develop those two housing funds. We also discussed the item of acquisition, which is we acknowledge the support for development of policies and processes to pursue acquisition of existing housing for member agency employees and the wider workforce. We also discussed development on agency-owned lands. The board expressed support for continued development analysis on 3 member agency parcels that we felt were had the most opportunity for future development on them. 2 were in Placer County, and 1 is within town of Truckee limits. So we're going to explore those 3 pieces of land and see what is of the best interest for future development on those lands. That's multi-year, just because each of those parcels have constraints to them. Is it in the right location? Does it have the right road access? All of that. So we're exploring further opportunities on those. And we also discussed program expansion. So we acknowledge the need to consider expanding programs and services to a wider public to ensure continued success and full utilization of our units and our offerings. So expanding who we offer long-term rentals to. Right now, we're currently offering it to only member agency employees, but we want to develop further tiers that expand beyond our membership employees. We also discussed state advocacy.
and that there are a number of community groups and organizations that are working on 80% plus AMI legislation, and that the Workforce Housing Agency needs to play a larger role in that work and state advocacy of opening up pathways for individuals and families that earn 80% AMI or higher, because our area is unique. It isn't like Nevada City. You can earn a decent annual income standards based compared to other areas, but it is extremely difficult for those families and individuals to acquire homes. So if we can participate in further state advocacy of opening up more pathways within towns and counties of how they address housing, we want to play a part in that. We also reviewed our housing needs survey, which the results showed a significant increase in workforce dissatisfaction with their ability to access and afford homes. That's not new, and it was exacerbated during the pandemic with turnover of selling of homes to individuals who want to live up here full time. So they were renting out their homes, and now they want to live up here in the last 2 years. So a huge amount of community members were left without homes, and a significant amount of our workforce and our agencies experienced that. 16% of respondents lost their housing during the pandemic, and 38% of respondents are experiencing significant and ongoing stress due to the current housing landscape in our area. In comparison to 2020, which was the last time we did our survey, we saw an increase of average monthly housing expense of 20%, which went from $1,700 a month to over $2,100 a month per household. The survey report is currently being finalized and will include individual reports for each member agency to review and see how that is affecting them. And workforce housing staff will utilize the survey results to alter and expand programs and services for member agency employees in the greater workforce. So it'll be used as a tool for us to develop our strategic plan further. It was a good workshop. All member agency representatives were present from Truckee, Donner, PUD, Nevada County, Placer County, Town of Truckee, Airport District, Hospital District, and Workforce Housing Agency staff, along with Shauna with Agnew and Breck and her assistant. And we're excited about, what was the acronym, Rick? Getting stuff done. Yeah, we're really most excited, and we spent most of our time talking through the development of a fund to really start to acquire actual options for our community.
Great, thank you.
Oh, I did, Mary requested actual stats off of our long-term leasing program, and I did provide that in the report of how many units were made available to member agencies, how many were filled, and we have one pending. And I wanted to note if our member employees don't take action on what's offered, then those houses are released from the program, and then those owners find renters through a different way.
Thanks, Lauren. Thanks for all your work on that. Anybody have any questions for Lauren?
I do.
Okay.
I'm thrilled to hear about the outside of the government agencies, because we've got small businesses that are just having a really hard time finding employees, and then having to compete with government agencies that can pay well and offer benefits and then offer security and pandemics and things like that. Were all of the agency representatives, was everybody enthusiastic about that, or was there any holdback on that?
Every agency expressed acceptance of going with option 2 of developing 2 funds. We believe that's would provide the most benefit to the community as a whole. Some agencies are limited of what they can contribute funds to. So as long as there was an option for them, some districts are more restrictive of how they utilize their revenue and what they can contribute. And so they may only be able to participate in the fund that directly is for the public agency employees. And the agencies that can participate and contribute funds to the 501c3, they didn't want to prohibit not having that being an option. But everyone voted unanimously for option 2, which was creating 2 funds.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Is there any public comment? Okay. Management team reports, general manager's report. Is there anything you want to pull out and highlight, Rob? We've all read the...
As presented, no further highlights, but I'll happy to take questions.
Okay. Any questions or comments on the manager's report? Mary?
Just in terms of the operations and comment report, noticing 3 incidents at 5 a.m., between the 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. hour. It's kind of amazing. And then I already mentioned this to Rob, but to be starting to think of outreach, if 220 goes under construction, the effect that's going to have on all the aircraft going out on 1129.
Mainly 29.
Yeah, mainly 29. So,
Right towards your backyard.
well, a lot of backyards.
Well, all 3 of you.
That's right.
So, and then that was just in terms of the runway utilization report. Now would be the time as well to talk about this. I looked at this, and the summer peak period is, the departures of jets on 29 is at 94%. Before the tower, it was 85%. The departures on 11 are 5%. Before the tower, there were 13%. So it's definitely funneling traffic to the west. And that's called flow. And just to be aware that we've created that situation. In terms of arrivals, onto 29, it's at 79%. It used to be 67% before the tower. So that's an improvement because those are probably, downwind or coming in over the lake. The runway 11, 15%, it used to be 17%, and runway 20 arrivals is now 4%, it used to be 12%. And that was a little disheartening to see that we're getting less arrivals on 20 and a lot more on 29. Well, no, less on 20. So yeah, it was the departures that really stood out to me because we are funneling them.
And I think the good news overall in the comparison of 2016 to 2022 for the summer peak period is the overall volume of activity operations is down 3%, which is good news. Some of the mix has changed and some is up, some is down, but overall the volume is down, which is great to see.
I would argue that the tower is not solely responsible for...
Well, these are real numbers when we did that analysis of
I think
16, 17, and
But
18.
as Rob said, I think the mix changes, and when you have more commercial aircraft that, are required to use 29, right? Because they need to use the longer runway.
Yeah, we're analyzing this comparable data, and we're going to have some further communication on this to help show how these traffic patterns are shifting over time, over the last 6 years or so, and how that is impacting neighborhoods, and the benefits of safety and other aspects of having a tower here, and also the impact of changing a pattern of activity or platforms coming in and out of here. So we'll have some further communication to help show what, there's a lot of tables there, it's a really small print, so we're going to build that a little differently going forward here.
And I'm encouraged to hear you're looking at it and trying to delve into it, because I was just, to derive these percentages, it's just a straight number percentage of what was used and what, you know.
Sure,
So
yeah.
you can
No, I
attribute it
see
to
that.
anything. Those are true percentages.
And I'd be curious to, know what other factors go into it. Yeah,
Right.
no, I totally agree with you. Those are
And
real numbers.
The other thing I wanted to mention in this runway utilization, there was a sentence of, on several occasions, pilots requesting runway 2 were advised to use 29 due to glider activity, but accepted a delay and waited to depart runway 2. I want to thank those pilots. That's just, a few extra minutes, and it makes a big difference. So.
Okay. Here, do you have questions or comments?
I did. Well, Mary stole my thunder on some.
Oh, okay.
But the one thing, actually, to answer specifically what you just talked about, so we had Conwin piston departures off 29 at 29% in 2016 and 51% now. So that's the smaller aircraft pistons, 50 and during calm winds. So that's definitely gone up. If we can figure out why that is going up. I do appreciate the flow concept, but I think especially when we don't have inclement weather and there's a lot of VFR traffic here, I think we've got some options, as those pilots demonstrated just by sitting there for a few minutes before they take off someplace else. And I've said this before, I really do believe this. It is a psychological thing for us as pilots. We tend to do what the airplane in front of us did. It's like that one took off that way, so I guess that's how we're taking off. So I think if we can do more outreach and more education to pilots and so that they know that these other options, they're not going to get in trouble if they ask for a different runway, then I think we'll see an improvement there.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
No.
Any public comments? Okay. Was there staff and board member conference attendance reports? Did anybody go to anything?
We have none.
Meeting review and direction to staff.
I think all the decisions were 5-0 today, and it was pretty clear decisions and
Okay.
directions. Thank you.
I got this note from you. I did
Just
this
a
at the-
reminder.
No, I did it at the very beginning.
No, he's talking about the GM review.
Oh, the GM review.
No, at the beginning. Did I miss it?
Yeah,
for the
you weren't
close?
paying attention.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's
You
okay.
got me.
It's
All right. I will accept that. Sorry about that. I'm happy to move the last closed session to next month, given the time of day today. So if that
Oh.
helps.
That would make
What does
Rick
everybody feel
happy.
about
He's
this?
On different time. He's on turkey time.
No, I think I'm at
Turkey
East Coast now.
So, and I'm excited. I saw in the report that Lauren is looking into the, and we'll know more early next year. Because I think it's an exciting opportunity to get board members from all the different special districts in a room. And how do we work together?
Given that we're going to skip the closed session for the GM review, since he did a great job this trip, we'll do it next week. I move we adjourn this meeting.
I have a board member announcement.
Oh.
Go ahead. Board member.
I just want to say, because some of this was brought up earlier, and I think it's worth noting, we're in the middle of an election, and there has been a lot of negativity in this election, but I have yet to see an example of where the 4 candidates have participated in this. It is external influences, external opinions on this that is really polluting this. And so I commend Mary and Kat and Mike Daniel and Chris Henderson for having that restraint to respect one another and to recognize that this is not between them in terms of the animosity, that it is external. I just wanted to go on the record as saying that I recognize and appreciate that.
Thank you.
Very good. And I'll second Rick.
Okay.
Unless Teresa has a board member announcement.
Oh, Teresa,
think she's there.
anything? Yeah, she's gone. Okay, do we need a roll call to adjourn or, nah, we're done.
I assume all are in favor.
All in
All in
favor?
favor?
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Josh.
Thanks for everybody online.